What's up, mi amigos? Welcome back to Snack Time. My name is Ben, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a really cool little uptime monitoring program called Vigilant. And before you tune away and say, oh, fine, I got Uptime Kuma, I'm good. Check this one out. It's pretty cool. It does a couple of things that Uptime Kuma does. It also does a couple of things that Uptime Kuma does not. So let's go ahead and jump in and let me show you the GitHub page and their official page too. So this is their official page, and they do offer a paid service if you did not want to host it yourself, or if you wanted to use it for like commercial purposes or something, and you didn't want to have to worry about running open source software. They do have some pricing here that you can go over. It's for the hobbyists, it's $79 a year. Not too bad. It's pretty reasonable. But we are not here to look at so much that, but just kind of explore the page. It will describe the things that it can do under products, show you the different things it can monitor, and we're also going to jump into the platform and I'll show you the same stuff. They also have documentation, and if you drop this down, we can select hosting, and we can see the self-hosted deployment, which is what we'll be using here in a little bit to install it on our own Docker server. Let me go ahead and show you what it looks like when you have it all fired up and configured. So we got our sign in. Let's just go ahead and sign into our page. And one thing I do want to show you, if you look down here under settings, we see that we have account security, and they do have MFA. So we can set up an MFA app to be able to authenticate. Now, I have not been able to figure out how to add multiple users, and there does not seem to be so much of an administrative UI for this. Maybe I'm missing it, but I've kind of looked all over the place and can't seem to locate it. If you do know something I don't, please put that down in the comments so the rest of us can learn from your knowledge. All right, moving on. So just going to start from the top here and kind of show you how to add a couple of sites for our monitoring purposes. If you want to add a single site, you can just add it here at the top, and adding it here under the sites level basically means that it's going to set up all of the other little child objects for you, the DNS monitoring certificates, uptime, link issues, stuff like that. So setting it up on the main page here is probably one of the best things. But one thing that I have noticed is that you cannot seem to be able to remove from here. It's definitely something I'm not seeing. You can check it, and you can also go into these, but there doesn't really seem to be a way to like remove them. What's up? This is Ben from the future, and I just wanted to update you on something that I figured out after I finished this video, and that is how to remove sites from here. It is something that I just completely missed. I want to show you real quick. If you put a checkbox beside any of the sites that are listed under your sites, any of the URLs are here, only thing you have to do is hit up this little play button here at the top, and one of the actions is delete. And once you do that, the site is gone, all gone. So you can also add multiple sites, which basically just gives you the ability to list a whole bunch of sites here, and then select which kind of monitors you want to apply to that specific URL. I'm just going to look at the ones that we've already added. I did add, let's see here, added snack time at the top here, and I can click in and get a little bit of information here. And also, if you have other sites that have been in there for just a little bit longer, sometimes you'll get additional information, like, you know, if it's monitoring DNS records, if it's monitoring different URLs, if there's a URL issue. So it'll spider your entire site and let you know if there's a particular URL that's went down. I'll show you that here just in a second. If we click on health, we can go to our uptime monitor, and we'll see a little bit of not only uptime, but latency. So we can check Yahoo. Let's see, go back here, uptime Yahoo. And here is the little bit of history that I have as far as latency on Yahoo. And you'll see that at, you know, time of day and how long it's been monitoring for as well. So you'll see it has 99% uptime for the last 7 days. So you can also edit your monitor here. And if we go under edit, there's a couple of settings that we can change. Let me make this a little bit larger. So you can change the URL. We could also change the monitor type. So if we're just pinging this site or if we're actually navigating to it, here's our host. So you get your friendly name, your host, and then we have our interval. And what this means is how many times should I be checking to see if this site is up? Every minute, every 30 seconds, every 5 minutes, every hour. And then next up, we have our retries. So this is the number of times we're going to retry to get to this site before considering it down. So in this instance, we're looking at every minute for 3 times. So this is 3 minutes. If we changed it to 10, then that would be the site has to be down for 30 minutes for it to be considered offline according to Vigilant. This can only be adjusted up to 3. So that's not something you'll be able just to go completely crazy with, but you could also do the hour if you wanted to. Minute is pretty much average. And then we have our timeout for connecting to the service. Pretty much, I believe if I had to guess, I would say that's probably in seconds, how many seconds it's going to take before it's considered timed out. Let's see if we jump back here, make it a little bit smaller. Let's go off to link issues next. So if you do have a site that has multiple pages and you want to monitor those pages to see if there is a change or a problem with the page, we can add a site to that crawler. We can give it a URL and we can also give it a sitemap. And then we give it a schedule. How often do we want to check? Daily, weekly, monthly. Once we have set that up, you can see that I have snack time set up and there is 25 URLs that it has crawled. And if we click into that, it says it's found 26, I guess it's 25 pages, including, and then you have the main page. Maybe that's how it got to that math, which is kind of weird. I don't know, whatever. But one thing we're kind of missing here is we don't really have a list of the URLs. I don't know if that is a bug or if it's if I have to search. No, nothing comes up if I search. So that might be something that needs to be addressed. It is picking them up, but maybe okay. So maybe it's only going to show me the ones with issues. I would still like to be able to click on this and see the URLs that it's monitoring. I think that would be a good suggestion. What do you guys think? Next up, we have some performance metrics that we can take a look at. Let's drop this down and let's click on Lighthouse. I like this. This is really cool. So let's go ahead and let's click on snack time. So this shows us our overall performance of the site. You can see that snack time's not doing great. It has a 41% performance. Accessibility is 96%. It's best practice. And we got some good SEO. I'm not quite sure how it measures that. It doesn't really go to too much detail as far as how it got to that ranking, but I'm glad it's that. So this one also picks out a couple of different metrics too, mostly pertaining to the load times and everything and how quickly it looks like it indexes. If we scroll down, we can see over time as each scan ran what our score was and how it either improved or declined. Down here is our screenshots. And what it's showing here is the timeline, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, which it says that at 375 milliseconds, this was the page. And as it loaded, this is how long it took for it to completely load. And there was no more data for it to fetch. So 3000 milliseconds, probably not the fastest, but then again, I don't go to the site too often. Let's check out edit under this one. This is you just specify the frequency that you wish to have this measured. So you can increase that pretty significantly all the way up to, it looks like weekly. All right, moving on and let's check out our infrastructure. This is something I really love. These were all pulled and set up for me. I did not have to do anything. So what it can do is it can pull all this information about your DNS records, and if there is a change, it can notify you of that change. You can also import them. You can, let's see if we click on import. Basically, okay, we just type in the domain that we want to import DNS information about. So let's do like Microsoft.com and just hit import. And let's see here. So it'll load up DNS records, and let's check back here in just a second. Oh, wait, cool. That was fast, actually. So here's all the cool DNS record information that we were able to pull from Microsoft. And if I think it's going to do what I think we're going to do, we go back. Let's refresh. All right, it did not add them, which is weird. So if you go to import, and let's do this again, let's do Microsoft.com. I don't see a button that just says add. I only see remove. So I see remove. But if I scroll down, I don't see. Oh, my big fat head's in the way. Yep. There we go. Save. Always check under your head. All right, so here we go. It's adding all of the Microsoft DNS. So that's pretty cool. So basically, if that were to change, then we should get an alert. We can also add a DNS record more manually. So we can say, hey, I want to monitor for the MX records for this particular domain, and that value should resolve to this. If it doesn't, then please let me know. I like the import option. That way you have to kind of do less typing. Let's see, clicking on this will just give you a little bit of information about it, and you can delete from here. That's why I think we're really just kind of missing the delete button from that site's up here. I think it's just, I think it's kind of, was it like maybe just an oversight? I think it'll be added pretty quickly. Moving on, we got certificates. So let's monitor information about our certificates that we're using. This gives us the information, has if it's valid, when it's valid from this date to this date, and the issuer. In our case, we're using encrypt or let's encrypt, so it's showing up as E6. It's telling us it's going to expire in 2 months. That's pretty cool. For edit on this one, it's basically just asking you what domain do you want to hit and on what port. Most of them are going to be 443. Now, I want to show you one of the coolest things that I think that this thing has that not a lot of them do. CVEs. So I put WordPress in here because that usually happens. So this monitors for any CVEs that come up that match any of your keyword terms. So if I click on this, there's one right here, and I can find out a little bit of information. It was published very, very recently, yesterday it looks like, and it's talking about this is a new CVE. Here's the score for WordPress. If you want to monitor additional softwares, very easy to do. We just go back here and hit add CVE, and it just asks for a keyword. So maybe we want to monitor like Sonic Wall, and we'll just hit create here. So it's not going to retroactively go back in time and pull all of the CVEs and list them for you here. It is going to wait to see, as the new ones arrive, just make sure that you're alerted. And that brings us to one of the final parts of this software, and that is the notifications. So if we go to notifications, there's several types of notifications that we can get. We can specify these here. We can add new notifications, basically set up different ones. If the site goes down, notify me. If DNS changes, notify me. There's a bunch of them that are already defined and already enabled, and you can choose whether or not to actually have them do something. It looks like you can set up conditions here too. That's pretty cool. So we got any all for conditions. Very neat, some logic there. And let's see here. So this one, monitors for DNS record changes. So that's pretty cool. Any of these that match any of these conditions. If the site changes, DNS changes, then go ahead and fire off a notification. So that really brings us to channels next, and one of the last things that we'll be looking at. Now it's saying, all right, cool, you know you want to be notified. How can I notify you? And we have a couple of options here. We go to add channel and we drop this down. We have a couple of them that we can choose from. We have notify. I don't know if you saw my video about destroyer, but notify is a quick and easy way for you to be notified via your phone, or also, like web browser. If there is an issue, you can set up a notify subscription. That's pretty cool. That's also a self-hosted thing you can use, or you can use the version that's readily available on their site. We have email, so we can set up to be able to send, looks like via email. Here's the to address. The email settings are configured under the Docker environment file, which I will show you later on. And then we have Discord, Slack, Google Chat, and Microsoft Teams. You know what I would really like to see in here? Webhook. Webhook could open up so many more options for notifications for things that support it. I love the ones that you have here, but I think we could add webhooks, and I think that would be even better, because you could integrate that with like N8N or some of those like those services to really expand the platforms that you can get notifications on. All right, moving on. Lastly, we just have our notification history. So if something was triggered, this is going to show you when it was triggered and where it went off to and what the details were. So far, nothing has went down that really required our attention. So yeah, this is Vigilant. Pretty cool. I'm going to show you how to set it up. We're not going to be using Portainer for this because it does require you to build it. So we're going to be using Docker still, and we're also going to be using Nginx Proxy Manager. The only thing we're going to be really using Portainer for is just to make sure that our Nginx Proxy Manager is joined to the same network as our Vigilant. If you don't have Portainer, that is okay. You can easily just add the Nginx Proxy Manager container to the same network. Very easy. Let's see. Moving on. All right, are we ready to install? I think you are. Let's go ahead and jump over and let me show you how to get this spun up on your own server. I'll see you there. Okie dokie. Well, let's do this. Let's head off to the documentation page, because that has a really good instructions on how we're going to get started with our own server. Let's drop this down and let's do hosting. And let's do our self-hosted deployment. So here is our Docker Compose file, very easy to use. And if we scroll down here, here is our .env file. That's what we're going to need. So not so much the Docker Compose, because we're not going to be using Portainer, but we are going to be needing the contents of this file. We are going to need our terminal server. So I'm going to drag that on over here. And we are going to need the URL for the GitHub page, because we are going to clone it onto our server. And then we are going to make some changes, create a file or two, and then deploy it using Docker Compose. So if we go under the GitHub page, and if you have lost that like I have, all you have to do is really just type in Vigilant GitHub into Google. One of the first things that shows up here. All right, check and make sure. Yep, we're on the right one. Let's go ahead and copy this URL, and let's head to our Linux server, and we are going to do git space clone, and then I'm just going to paste in that URL. Make it a little bit bigger so you can see it. All right, once we have downloaded it, which has not taken very long at all, then let's go ahead and we're going to do ls, which will list all the folders in that directory. And I'm going to go into the Vigilant one. And here we go. So you can see we have our Docker Compose file, but one file that we are missing is that .env file. And you can build it without it, but the problem is that it needs some parameters set, specifically the URL. And if you don't set that, it's going to revert back to localhost. And when you try to go to your site, you try to sign in, it's going to be like, oh, redirect to localhost or something. So it may give you some issues. So I would rather avoid them if it's all the same to you. All right, let's do this. We do have, it looks like a sample file here that we can use. That's pretty cool. Instead of creating a new file, let's just use this one. All right, so let's hop back here. And if we do an ls-l, and this just lists it a different way, one thing that we are seeing is where we don't see these .env .docker files. We don't see any of the .editor or .desk, .example, any of that stuff. And that's because anything that starts with a period in Linux is going to be a hidden file. So if you want to see them, just do an ls space dash a, capital A, and then L. And so you'll see we have a bunch of hidden files. And that's just the way that the .dnv and .env files are done. I don't know why, but it is. So it looks like there's a couple of .env file configurations. Let's look at the other ones and see if there's any difference. I don't think so. This one has a whole bunch of configuration file options in it. So that's pretty cool. So this is if you want to configure an AWS key, a pusher app, Redis, your database, logging. These are all optional things. We can definitely get away with a much more simpler .env file, which is what we're going to be using here. This will still set up Redis, but not any of the other things that we're not going to be really configuring in this video. I do like to look at these files before I just like ship them out. So let's take a look at that real quick before we do that. So this .dnv file here is just specifying the app name. The app key you do not need to specify. That will be generated automatically for you. You do not need to fill that in. You will need to change this app URL, and the database connections are really up to you. You can change your password to be something more secure than root and password. Probably not a bad idea. But I think if you do it here, we'll also probably be looking at doing it in our Docker Compose file too. We'll have to check that out. The rest of this stuff is really if you want to set up email. I'm not really going to cover that because it's probably not something you really should be doing anyway, but it is an option. For the rest of this, everything's pretty much straightforward. So let's head back to our terminal. And what we're going to do is we're going to do cp space .env.docker, and we're going to copy it to just a .env. All right, so we do that same ls-al. We should see a .env file here. So let's use Nano this time around because it's a little bit easier to use than Vim, just because most of you might not be familiar with Vim, and I don't want to make things difficult for you. We're going to need to change our URL, so I'm just going to change this. It's going to be HTTPS for us because we are going to be using Nginx Proxy Manager. And now let's just specify the domain name that we want to use. All right, so I'm going to be using just uptime.synhow.com. The rest of this stuff I'm not going to really change. I'm just going to leave these as defaults. No one should really be having access to my database server anyway, and then there's not going to be really any confidential data in there anyway, but you guys do whatever makes you feel better. I'm going to do a Control X. It's going to ask me if I want to save. I'm going to hit yes. I'm going to hit enter. And if we do a cat.env, which is just a quick and easy way, it's short for concatenate, and it's going to show us the contents of the file. And I can see that my app URL is uptime.synhow.com. So I know that I did it right. All right, let's change a little bit about the Docker Compose file too. So we're going to do docker-compose.yaml. We're going to bring that into Nano. And I want to show you something that may cause you some headaches. If we scroll all the way to the bottom here, for this port, unless you're going to be hosting it strictly on your local network, we're not. We're going to be using Nginx Proxy Manager. But for us, we're going to comment out this port 8000 to 8000. Also, if you are running Portainer, this 8000 port conflicts with Portainer's 8000 port. So you may want to change it anyway. So if you do that, you can always change you can always disable, portainers if you want to, or change it to a different port. Your call. Not going to really cover that one so much, but it is an option. And you would change it very similar to the way that we are changing this one when you install Portainer, or if you have to remove Portainer and redeploy it. For us, I'm just not going to worry about it. It's a big pain in the butt that I prefer to avoid. All right, so we are going to take a look a little bit at this container file so you know what it is deploying. So let's start at the top. We are going to be building this from scratch. So we do need to leave this in here. If you take it out, you may run into some issues. We are going to go ahead and set up our storage here. We're just going to let it do its thing and set up some basic storage under our user profile. You could always change this if you wanted to and set up volume mappings. Totally your call. For my purposes, I'm just going to leave it the way it is. So let's keep on scrolling down. It's going to be setting up a restart policy of always. So if your server goes down, it comes back up. This is going to come automatically no matter what. Working directory is just something they're specifying for their product, for their container. So we don't need to change that. It is going to be creating a network of Vigilant. So it'll be on its own network, which is good. That's what we want. And it's going to be performing a health check. Its health check, it has to pass is this curl and then localhost. So if you change this URL to something other than a URL that they can get to, you're going to fail your health check. And you may fail it anyway initially until it gets up to speed. But it's not the end of the world. It's just its way of checking in on itself to see if it's actually responding. If you ever see something that says unhealthy, if you can still get to it, it may just be a problem with the health check. And if you're confident that everything's working fine, it's not a requirement. Depends on is going to be looking at the MySQL container and the condition that has to report back in order for it to be successful and power on this container is a condition of service healthy. We'll see that down a little bit farther. All right, so we got the horizon. That's something that's another container that Vigilant uses that is going to go ahead and pull here. And it's just, again, specifying a couple of volumes that it's going to be working with. It also has its own health check. If you are terminaled into the container, you can run this PHP artisan and check its health as well and make some changes. All right, so again, we are going to be relying on MySQL to be a service healthy, as well as Redis now also has to be service healthy for this container to fire up. All right, so down here we have our MySQL, and what we're going to cover here is the restart policy. That's fine. We're good to go. Image, MySQL 8, awesome. The environment variables that we're specifying here is the MySQL database is going to be Vigilant. You can change that if you want to. The root password is going to be password, also something you can change. If you change it here, make sure that you change it on the .env file as well, and vice versa. Moving on. This is going to be the volume it's going to create for the database. The network it's going to join, same. And the health check that it's going to perform on itself is to run the MySQL admin command, ping and -h localhost. It's basically going to perform these tests to make sure that it is actually responding normally. And that's cool. Redis is just another, it's basically going to be handling your caching for you. And it also has a restart policy of always. It has a volume mapping that it's creating. It's going to be joining the same network. And it's also going to be running its own health check of Redis-CLI ping. And let's see here. As we scroll down, we're going to be setting up our Lighthouse server, and same restart policy. It's deploying with 2 gigs of memory reserved. You can increase that if you have the memory to spare and you want to dedicate it to running this container. Totally up to you. Joining the same networks, and at the very bottom here is just us building those networks, building the Vigilant network, and also establishing those volumes down here, the public, the database, and the Redis. That was a lot to cover, wasn't it? Yeah, totally was. Let's go ahead and save our changes. Lastly, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and build this into our Docker. So what we're going to do is docker-compose and then up. Before I run this, if we just run docker compose and we get a this command is not available or something like that, what I want you to do is I just want you to do apt space install docker-compose. And what that will do is that will go out there and it will download it for you. Fortunately for us, you can see docker-compose is already at the newest version. By default, a lot of Docker installations do not install docker-compose. So you may run into that issue. And I don't want you to run into that issue, so that's how you fix it. Right. So I'm going to do docker-compose and then up. And the documentation says just to go ahead and run the up command. You can do that. And what it's going to do is it's going to basically it's going to start up and it's going to continue to run, and it will not give you, it will basically it will be running in this terminal right here, and it will not be running in what we call headless mode. So what we want to do is also with the Docker compose up, you can run it the first time like that, that's fine. But in the future, you'll want to run it with Docker-compose up and then space -D. That's D as in David, and that is for detached mode. Let's go ahead and just run it as the instructions say. All right, so it's going to be creating all of its prerequisites, the network and everything else, and looks like it's establishing our volumes, or has established our volumes. Now it's doing the containers. Here we go. So what it's doing now is it's creating all of its database infrastructures and populating its schema. So in just a little bit here, we should have a functional website, but we are going to make a couple of changes with Nginx proxy manager and everything first too. Just want to make sure that we don't run into any sort of errors. That's okay that you're seeing this, not a big deal. I think we are good to go. I think this is successfully run. Once this has run, what we can do is we can just kind of leave it right here, just running as it's on its own. And we can check back with it and basically just shut it down and then fire it back up in detached mode. Let's go over to our Portainer. Let's go into our host and let's check out our containers. We can see that app is still starting. That's fine. Again, you may see it phase into unhealthy, but eventually it'll work its issues out once everything is running. Let's do this. Let's jump into Nginx proxy manager, and let's make sure that we are joined to the same network as as Vigilant. So we are not. Let's do this. I'm going to move my head out of the way so you can see. Now let's drop this down and let's hit Vigilant and let's join the network. That will allow our container here the ability to communicate with the containers on the Vigilant network. The way of segregating all the traffic, which is good. It's good security practice. All right, let's head off back to containers. It's still starting. That's fine. Let's move on to creating our subdomain. All right, for this, we're going to be using SynHow. We've already decided what our subdomain was going to be. It was going to be uptime.synhow.com. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new record. It's going to be an A record. And it doesn't really matter what provider you're using. You could be using GoDaddy or another service provider or a different DNS, or it's same terminology. Just look for that terminology. For the A record, we're going to be specifying that as uptime. I'm going to be using the external IP address of my server. And what the A record does is essentially it says, I'm going to create a domain, and the A record means anything, it's going to put it right in front of the actual domain itself. So in our instance, it'll be uptime.synhow.com. You can make this anything you want to. You can make it bob.synhow.com. Or you could also create a domain specifically for Vigilant and just have the @ symbol go to the IP address using an A record. That means synhow.com itself would go over to Vigilant and there would be no subdomain. Everything else would be exactly the same way that we're going to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and save these changes. And that's all I have to do in my DNS. Very easy. A lot of people get worried about DNS, but it's actually really easy to do. For our Nginx proxy manager, we're just going to go under proxy hosts. We're going to add a new proxy host. And we're going to call this, let's zoom in here a little bit. We're going to call this, let's see if you can guess it, uptime, yep, .synhow.com. And now it wants to know, where should I forward this traffic off to? Does it need to go to a host name or IP address? Always a host name. You do not want to have to keep up with IP addresses. And the host name that we're going to be forwarding our traffic off to, we go over to a container. It's this one right here, the Vigilant _app_1. So we're just going to copy that text. You see that unhealthy came up. It'll go away. And even if it doesn't, that's okay. Not the end of the world. Let's go back to our Nginx proxy manager and let's paste it in here. And now it wants to know what the port forwarding is that we're going to use. That's basically the port that the container is expecting to see traffic on. If you're not sure how to find that, it's very easy. Let's go to our documentation and we can look at our Docker compose file. So this right here, remember we commented this out. It was listing on port 8000 and it was going to forward that port traffic from 8000 to 8000. So the container that the container is listing on port 8000 for traffic. And that is the one on the right. So let's go ahead and specify 8000. Let's block common exploits and enable WebSocket support. And let's go ahead and hit save. That should add us that host name and that proxy host to our list here. We have it right here at Uptime, but it is unencrypted and we do not like that. We want to encrypt our traffic. So let's go ahead and go back to those three dots and go to edit. And let's zoom in again. And let's go to SSL and let's drop this down and request a new SSL certificate. Let's force it. And let's also agree to the terms of service of Let's Encrypt. If you did everything correctly and you didn't have any typos and there were no spaces and you did it in the order that we did it, this window should go away and yep, right there. If it did not go away and instead it gave you an error message, like a red message, it's not the end of the world. Most of the time it might be a typo when you were specifying the domain. It could be that the DNS is not propagated yet and Let's Encrypt can't get to it, or it's because you do not have port 80 open to go to the Nginx proxy manager container. That also can really stop any sort of progress because it has to communicate with using port 80 to the Nginx proxy manager container. If it can't do that, it can't verify that you actually are legit, and that's not good. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and see if we did everything right. If we just click on the uptime.synhow.com, it should take us to our site. And I'm going to drop myself down a little bit. There we go. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So this is the very first username that we're going to create. The first and the only one. So I'm just going to do Ben at snacktime.com. I'm going to do super secret password and register. And here we go. We are all set up and ready to go. It's asking us for the domains that we want to start monitoring, which is very cool. Even if you click off that wizard, it's basically just right here. We'll just go back to add multiple domains and it'll let us add whatever we want to. And one more thing we almost forgot is we have that pesky little terminal server still running our Docker, and we want to run it in detached. So I want to show you how to do that real quick. If we just hit Control-C here, what it will do is it will do a graceful shutdown of all of the containers. So once this is done for both the app and the MySQL server, we will start it back up again. We can do it a couple of different ways. We can do it from here by just doing Docker space compose or Docker dash compose space up and then the space dash D. We can also come in. We can also hit up our portainer and go up under our containers here and basically just go ahead and check them off and hit start. So you may not be able to control a lot of things about the stack from here. You can still see it and you can still check them all that way and hit start. And this will also fire them up the same way as if you did the -D from the terminal. All right, well, that pretty much sums up this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it informative. If you did, please consider giving me a thumbs up and maybe even subscribing to the channel. And if not, that's okay too. Just feel free to let me know with a thumbs down and maybe what you didn't like about the video. I'm always looking to improve, and I really appreciate your time today. I hope you guys have a good rest of your afternoon. Take care.